So email copywriting. This is a skill that can drive tons of revenue for your business. Whether you're a coach, consultant, or an e-commerce brand, knowing how to write great copy is going to get you very far. So in today's easy tutorial, I'm going to run you through the exact process of how I create emails for my clients. And whether you're an e-commerce like in-house marketer or you're a freelancer, you can follow this exact process to level up your game with your clients. But first, if you're new here, my name is Emily. I'm a digital marketer with a passion for email, and I help e-commerce brands scale their business using email marketing. I'm releasing new videos and tutorials every single week, so please subscribe so you don't miss out. Plus, at this point in time, I only have 15 subscribers, so if we can push that number up a little bit, I will be really grateful. So if you've watched any of my videos, and big shout out to you if you have, you'll know that I tend to dive into the overall strategy of email marketing. Today, I'm excited to unpack more about the writing process I use to come up with powerful sales emails and sales sequences that I use for e-commerce brands. And this can be anything from a newsletter to an email flow to like a specific product launch campaign. All of these principles are really applicable. And the research phase that I go through is going to be super useful for whatever kind of email you are going to be writing for your clients. So let's get started, and I'm going to run you through this step by step. Step number 1, research and planning. As with most things, preparation is everything. Whether you're writing a single sales email, a welcome sequence, or a newsletter, there are some key questions you want answered and pieces of information gathered before you even begin writing. You want to know what the purpose of this email is, and you want to dive into the mind of your target customer to really be able to frame the email in a compelling way. So how do we do this? So there are 2 things I like to think about here. The one is know your client, and then the second is know their client. So firstly, let's start with knowing your client. If you're a freelancer taking on ad hoc work, you'll definitely want to take the time to know your client. If you're working in-house, of course, you're going to understand your clients a little bit better, but it's still really important to have these questions answered, and it's very useful for you moving forward if you have all these questions answered in one place. Maybe you want to include these in an onboarding form, ask the client directly, or use their website as a reference point for answering these questions. We want to figure out what they sell, who is their ideal target audience, what is the biggest problem that they are solving. We want them to identify and list 3 to 5 brand USPs. Who is their competition, and what does the competition do that is better than your client? What do they do that is better than the competition? Why would someone not buy from them? It might be relevant, especially if you're working with an e-commerce brand, to get an idea of their average order value and how often customers are returning and whether they have returning customers at all. And I know you might think that these things are things that you might know in the back of your mind, but it's really worth putting pen to paper on this kind of stuff, because it frames your own mind in terms of how you're writing for this client, and it gives you ideas around the overall email marketing strategy and future emails that you might want to write. It really just helps to build your relationship with your client because you understand them, their needs, and their customer. So secondly is knowing their customer. So what I mean is, if you are working for an e-commerce brand that, let's say, is a supplement brand that creates products for young adult females, you want to be able to dive into the mind of the young adult female in order to write compelling copy. I've realized how powerful it is to just take a little bit of extra time to dive into the mind of this target customer, and it really speeds up the writing process. And when you build out the framework that I'm going to describe to you now and show you some examples, you can actually pick and choose pieces of this framework to use in your copy. So half the work is done for you already, and it just lays the foundations really well. So what I like to do is map out what I call a CPSST framework, and I just made that up, but I like it, so I'm sticking with it. CPSST stands for cause, problem, symptoms, solution, and transformation. So what I want to do is share my screen with you just to show how I've mapped out this CPSST framework. And I've done it in Miro, which is a pretty useful tool that you can use to just visualize these kinds of things. And what I've done is, this is for a client that has a leaky gut protocol. So it's supplements that help you to rebalance and improve your gut health. So how I like to start with this is by thinking about the key problem at hand. So for this client, the problem is that people get leaky gut syndrome, and this causes intestinal permeability, which then has like a range of impacts on that person's life, not positive impacts, negative impacts. But it's not enough to just know what the problem is. What we want to do is identify the causes. So I've outlined 6 here. It could be poor diet, chronic stress, alcohol, medications, infections, or autoimmune conditions. Then what is really valuable is to think about what are the symptoms that people experience on a day-to-day level. And I think you can already tell that knowing the causes and knowing the problem are not enough to create compelling copy and to really resonate with your customer, because people aren't walking around thinking, oh no, like my poor diet is causing leaky gut, or I hate the fact that I have leaky gut syndrome. No, they're thinking about the day-to-day emotional, physical, mental, spiritual symptoms that they're experiencing because of this leaky gut syndrome. And that is how you really connect with your potential customer. So here we have symptoms like digestive issues, nutrient deficiencies, skin issues, acne, eczema, headaches, joint pain, fatigue, low energy, brain fog, anxiety, depression, poor sleep. I really believe that unpacking the symptoms is very, very valuable, and it just frames your mind in terms of how you position the problem and solution for your potential client. You want to really dive into the pain points that they are experiencing. So yeah, really take your time on building out these symptoms. And like, I would never deny that I use ChatGPT to help me figure all of this out. It's a really great tool for brainstorming. So feel free to use prompts and identify more symptoms than just you on your own would have figured out. And stay tuned, I'm going to show you some ChatGPT prompts that I use. So then we have the solution, which is our product. And I could probably spend a little bit more time here unpacking the specific solutions, like what are the features of this leaky gut protocol that tend to each of these symptoms. But what I've done in the transformation section is really unpack that. So I think it's not enough just to know causes, problems, symptoms, solution. People make emotional decisions, and you want to really tap into the desire that people have for their life for some kind of transformation. So maybe it's increased energy, clear skin. Even taking it as far as like clear skin would lead to more confidence. You don't have to worry about applying tons of makeup. You don't have to feel self-conscious. Improved mood, you're going to be happier. You can spend more time with the people you love and not have anxiety. Reduce stress and anxiety, sleep better. So you're really tapping into like core desires that people have. And I think it's so helpful. And I know I've said this a ton of times, but it's really helpful to map this out before you even start writing. Because, as you can see here, you already have a bit of storytelling. Like, are you struggling with acne due to poor diet and chronic stress? We have a solution, leaky gut protocol. It's going to clear your skin and make you feel a ton better. Like, I'm making this up right now, but you can see how this template really tells the story itself, and you can kind of pick and choose and mix and match, and it just speeds up your copywriting process. And then what I've done here, and I'll just show you this, it's kind of, it's relevant, is what I've done is I've used ChatGPT to really unpack the CPSST side of things. And then I've said, okay, now that you know this customer, come up with a bunch of potential landing page headlines. And this is again just to get my mind in the frame of writing sales copy. So it's come up with a bunch of ideas, and then I've said here, like, create a landing page for me. So, or create like an email for me. So again, ChatGPT's kind of done a bit of the work for me, and it's going to help me when I get into actually writing emails. So what I want to do with you here is just share with you the ChatGPT prompt that I use, and I've actually just saved this as a template for myself, and I literally go through this process with every single client that I onboard. So firstly, I get ChatGPT to create a customer avatar for me. So I use this prompt, create a customer avatar for me. I have a business in the niche space called brand name. We are a brief description of the brand targeted at your target audience or niche. Then I tell ChatGPT to imagine an individual who embodies the ideal customer for our brand. Think about their lifestyle preferences and how they might interact with the brand. Provide insights into their interests, media consumption habits, shopping behavior, and any other challenges or pain points they may experience. Help me understand who this person is, what motivates them, and how our brand fits into their life. So once ChatGPT has created that for me, and what I tend to do is copy that across into like an A4 presentation, like single page document, and I put a little picture. I actually have a video on creating a customer avatar, so I'll make reference, I'll link that below. And then what I do is I get ChatGPT to unpack their causes, problems, symptoms, solutions, and transformations. So I use the prompt, I want to outline my customers' needs and pain points in a way that allows me to position my product as the key solution. I'm using the framework cause, problem, symptom, solution, and transformation. The solution is obviously my product, and the transformation is the physical, emotional, and other improvements people would experience when using my product. I would really like to dive deep into the psychology of why people would buy from me. Can you create a table with my framework along the top axis and dive into the specific causes, problems, symptoms, etc. of my ideal customer? So ChatGPT will generate all of this for you, and then spend some time. I also put this onto a one-page document in the same way that I had that up for the Miro board, where it's like causes, problems, symptoms, solutions, transformations. And then I have it in one place, and anytime I'm writing copy, I just return to that and come up with countless ideas to create compelling copy. And honestly, the more time you spend making this as good a foundational document as possible, the shorter you're going to spend on actually writing copy, because half of the work is done for you, as I've said. So let's move on to the next section. Just to frame this correctly, we're still in part one of all of this, which is the research and planning phase. So something that is also really, really helpful to set up, especially when you're onboarding a new client, and it just forms, again, part of that foundational piece that you have and you can lean into anytime you're writing copy, is unpacking and knowing the objections that your client's target customer may have. So the strategy here is very simple. Figure out the reasons why your customer might not buy from you, and then come up with compelling and legitimate reasons why that objection is not true. So overcome the objection. Everybody has frictions that will prevent them from buying. You want to figure out what those frictions are and overcome them and help them, move them along towards making that purchase decision. So the most common reasons will be that they believe your product or service is too expensive, they believe your solution won't work for them, they don't believe in the solution in general, or they don't think that they need it. So answer those questions for them, get into their mind and overcome those objections. And you can use this copy in your emails moving forward. So again, this is me sharing I was working on a sales sequence for a client, and this is the research and preparation phase that I was doing for them. So I actually map out all the objections. So I go through the first objection, it's too expensive. And then I come up with reasons why this product is not too expensive. And actually, it costs less than a cup of coffee. So how much is your health worth to you? And I come up with ideas for ways that I could overcome these objections. So the second one is it won't work for me. So I've got some case studies and testimonials. Again, also leaning on like we've combined powerful ingredients, we've like lent in on the science. These are the ingredients we're using. The third one is I don't believe you. So here I lean into some storytelling to really resonate with the customer and build trust. And lastly, like I don't need it. So I come up with responses to that before that as well. And I haven't done it before. I've tried it before and didn't work. But that's another potential objection that people may have. So think about answers to these questions and frictions that people may have. Okay, so step 2, know your goals. So this does fall into like the preparation phase of email copywriting. However, step 1 that we've just completed is the really foundational work that you can do, and it will reap benefits for every single email that you write. If you are then diving into writing a specific email, a sales sequence, a sales letter, and any email flow, you want to then dive into that specific piece of content and figure out what is the goal of that email or that email sequence. And even within one email sequence, you may have different goals as the person progresses through the flow. So obviously, you know, if you're thinking as an e-commerce brand, your biggest goal is going to be to drive revenue and drive sales. Of course, we are wanting to sell a product. However, there are nuances to this, and especially when you're thinking about the overall marketing funnel of moving people from being aware of your brand to actually purchasing and then to becoming like loyal advocates, your goals are going to be different for people who are at different phases of the funnel. So just take some time to figure out what is it you want from this email, and this is going to help you frame like how you structure the email and the call to action that you include. So are you wanting to drive signups, just create engagement, build awareness, build trust? Are you wanting to launch a product, sell a product? Take some time to think about this, and this will help you to write powerful emails more easily. Okay, part 3, preparing your hooks and subject lines. Whenever I'm starting to write emails or email sequences, I spend some time brainstorming the hooks and subject lines of each email. So we know what the goal of this email, the purpose of this email is, and then what we can do is really start to get creative with our hooks and our subject lines in a way that will entice the reader, one, to open the email, and then to actually read and take the action that we desire. So a hook is just something that grabs the reader's attention, and the subject line is obviously very important because we can have amazing email copy, but if the person does not open the email, then what is the point? So when it comes to hooks, we want to think about sparking curiosity and creating intrigue. So we can do this by posing a question and or leaning into our understanding of our customer. Again, as I've said, people are emotional, they make emotional decisions. So when we're writing hooks and even when we're writing subject lines, we want to lean into that. Even if you see yourself as a really formal, like detached type of company, you have to remember that you are reaching people in their home life, like on their laptop, on their phone, they're like scrolling their emails when they're lying in bed. You have to think about what people are going to be intrigued to open. So it's not about having an email voice that does not align at all with your overall brand voice, but it's just remembering that people are not going to click on something that doesn't interest them, even if you feel like this is the perfect subject line and perfect email that aligns with your brand. You have to meet people halfway and lean into those emotional aspects that are going to inspire them and compel them to open that or to click through. When we're thinking about hooks, we want to ask ourselves, you want to ask yourself, what solution are you trying to get your audience to believe in? What is the single biggest pain that your customer is experiencing? What are the results, outcomes, or desires that this person might want for their life? And this is all stuff that you can actually go to your CPSST framework and pick that out. Then you want to frame your hook in a way that drives intrigue. So like, did you know that or unpopular opinion, X is actually like this and not like that? Can you imagine having X, Y, and Z? Or the truth behind whatever. So I'll share my screen with you again. This was for a sales sequence for a brand. And I've gone through for every single email in the sales sequence, I've gone through and asked myself these questions. So in this email, we're looking at what is the solution that we want our audience to believe in, right? And then I've done subject lines as well. And then for email 2, is the single biggest pain point that our customers experience, okay? So here I've done some like potential hooks that lean into pain points. This is like an overall, this is just research and planning before I even start writing. For email 3, I am like, what are the 3 big benefits of this brand that like lean into what people desire for their life? What are the results, outcomes, or desires the product will help them accomplish? And then as you can see, like I've planned hooks like, can you have it all? Can you really be? No. And then I frame it as a problem with a solution. So I do that for every email that I'm writing. Here's another one, an example. My hook here, so I've done like a subject line. So we're going to personalize it, first name, please read. And then the hook is, I'm pretty sure you'll find this interesting. Here we have a different email that starts with, I could start this email with a question like, do you ever feel stuck in your life? Or do you ever feel like the same patterns play out in your relationships? But the truth is, so this is like, people are like resonating with those questions that you technically didn't ask, but now they're interested in like, what is the truth about these questions? Look, I know that copywriting is actually a skill that you do need to practice, but really thinking about framing these questions and these pain points in a way that drives intrigue is the best way that you're going to create powerful and compelling hooks. So again, I've done the same thing with this, where I plan out like subject lines. So first name, I have a question. This is pretty powerful. So I have a question. It's a pretty good hook. And then we have a question around this customer avatar, like, do you experience difficulty with intimacy or struggle to get close to others? Perhaps you find, no. The truth is, we all feel this way from time to time. So you're kind of like opening a loop and you're getting the reader to become invested in figuring out the answers to some of these questions. So here we also have, this is something I recommended you do, is like, did you know? And so the subject line is, did you know this? And then the hook is, did you know that 95% of who you are is a series of unconscious automations? What does that mean? And this is sort of an educational email for my client. But you want to think about ways to hook the reader in. So this is actually, I spoke about overcoming objections. This is an email where I do that. So I like resonate with the customer. So anyone who has a doubt about online courses and self-healing might describe it as like fluffy or like esoteric. So I say like, yeah, it can be fluffy at times, and I completely get that. We don't know what we don't know. And then I run through some like testimonials that this client of mine's customers have had. So I hope that gives you some ideas about writing hooks and keeping things interesting, and you're welcome to copy some of these examples that I've shared with you. And then when it comes to writing subject lines, you want to keep it short and simple. You don't want to be spammy. You don't want to use like all caps or emojis or dollar signs. Like that just gets massively flagged as spam. And where you can, you want to personalize. So most email service providers, you are able to use like a specific personalization tag. So it's someone's first name, like Emily, I have a question for you, or Sandra, did you know this? Like this just feels more personal, and like people are more compelled to open. In fact, there is a statistic that I can't remember the exact number, but I just want to say, I'm not even going to guess, but like I feel like it's like 60% emails with people's first name in the subject line do like significantly better than emails without. So obviously you don't want to use this in every single one of your emails, but it is worth testing and trying and seeing how that works for you. Okay, part 4, writing the body of your email. So you've got your subject line, you've got your purpose, you've got your hook. Now what you want to do is really add that value or expand on the hook in a way that educates and compels your reader and drives them towards your call to action. Now, depending on the type of email that you're sending, this body could be anything from like a really long form sales letter to just like a few lines that just expands a bit on the point and gets people to click through. So this is a difficult section to talk about because it does depend on what you're writing and who you're writing for. But I think what is helpful here is just thinking about a general formula that does work for copywriting, and that is the pain, agitate, and solution framework. So you position the pain, you agitate that pain, so you kind of twist the knife or whatever the saying is, you like really dive into like why it is relevant to think about this pain now and like why is this pain so bad, and then you position a solution. And the nice thing here is that you've already done most of the work in your CPSST framework, so you can go back to that. So let's say we have a skincare brand and someone is really struggling with dry skin, and they find that their skin is like flaky and they get acne because of it. So they're struggling with acne, they don't feel confident, their skin doesn't feel good, and they're spending too much money on makeup because they're constantly applying makeup before they leave the house. And it's just, they don't feel good in their own skin. So that's sort of pain and agitating the pain. And then we can present them with a solution of like, let's say we know this target customer cares about all natural products. So now we have this like science-backed all natural product that deeply hydrates skin, leaving you feeling confident and glowy. So you don't need to leave the house wearing makeup. So that's one way to like, I mean, this is just an example off the top of my head, but to sort of frame that problem, agitate, solution. And then if you are writing a longer email, you can also think about the objections they may have, like around price, or they don't believe in this specific product. You could dive into like some of the science and the ingredients that you're using, maybe the founder's story around like how no other products work for her, but this is something she created that is the only thing that works for her. Whatever it is, whatever's relevant to your brand, this is quite a nice formula that you can use in your copywriting. So I just want to share with you this email here. I haven't got my subject and preview yet, but this is quite a good example of the pain, agitate, solution applied quite simply and directly. So the main purpose of this email was to drive clicks. So this was a product launch that I was doing for a client, and we just wanted to, we had multiple emails educating people about this new product, using social proof, all that kind of stuff. This specific email was just about driving clicks. So we have the problem, like low energy, brain fog, and hormones got you down, first name. Raise your hand. So here we like drive the pain a little bit more and resonate with the customer more. Raise your hand if you ever had a ton of things on your plate, a nightmare to-do list, and 1,000 hats to wear. And you wake up feeling exhausted, emotional, like you want to hide under your blanket. We've all been there, right? If this resonates with you at all, you're going to want to check this out. Our delicious, convenient, created by women, for women supplements are now 15% off for a limited time only. Ready to kick low energy to the curb? Shop now. So this is we don't even dive deep into what the solution, we've got the solution here. We don't really do any overcoming of objections or any deep dive into what the ingredients are. We do that in other emails. But this does kind of give you an idea of like how you hook people in, resonate with them more, and then intrigue them to take action. And the action here is that we wanted them to shop now because we were running a nice discount. So this is just an example of that. And lastly, part 5 or step 5, I can't remember if I'm using step or part. but we've got your call to action. So this is just, as you know, the action that you want people to take, and it generally manifests in the form of a button. The big takeaway with calls to action is just to have one call to action per email. So what I mean by this is not just one button. You might have multiple locations that people can click through to the place you want them to click through to, but you don't want to be sending people in lots of different directions, because you're going to confuse them and overwhelm them, and then they're just not going to take action. So you don't want to be sending one person to sign up to your newsletter, plus another to like respond to a review, plus another to shop now. You want to really streamline and make that user experience super seamless. So they open the email, they're kind of pitched an offer, and then they are taken to the next step of that offer. And this just keeps it really seamless and clean. So keep it one CTA, make the copy short and simple, be very clear. Like, you want to make sure that the copy of the button lines up with wherever that button's going to take them. So, you know, don't say like book a call and then they end up on like a shop page. You just want to make sure that there's alignment with that. And then again, A/B tests. What's pretty cool about most email marketing softwares, I use Klaviyo for e-commerce, is that you can split test your email, have exactly the same copy, content, subject line, images, or whatever you're using, and then you just change the copy of the call to action button or buttons, and you watch that click rate and see how people are responding to different types of copy. So as I said, copywriting is definitely a skill that you learn over time, and I can be completely honest that when I started, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, and I just practiced and watched YouTube videos. And the other great thing that you can do is like start to follow similar brands. So subscribe to brands that you like, subscribe to their email lists, and read the emails that come through, and then save those emails as reference points. A good benchmark for a good email is like something that you would actually click on and open and then take action based on the copy inside of that email. So have a look at what intrigues you, what gets you to open, what gets you to click through, and see if you can find patterns in those emails, and then replicate those patterns for yourself. Because there are formulas to these things, and once you understand that, you can like copy and paste and replicate, and it becomes a lot easier to write compelling copy. So again, practice makes perfect. I'm certainly still on my journey of figuring out great copywriting and coming up with my own methods of doing things. But I hope this has really helped to understand a little bit more about the writing process and what it takes to write an email or a sales sequence. There is quite a lot of work that happens in the back end, but it's so worth it because it just makes the actual writing process a lot easier. And if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe. Again, like I said, I mean, if you've made it to the end of this, then love you, thank you. No, seriously. It means a lot to see like my subscribe count jump up by like 1 a month. So yeah, thanks for everyone who has commented and given me positive feedback on this, or negative feedback, I guess, as well. Constructive criticism is always great. Any questions, leave them in the comments, and I will see you next week.